Nick and Griffin here for Polygon, and we just finished watching...
Norman Reedus had a baby!
He had a baby, it came out of him, off screen, I think. They cropped that out.
I saw Norman Reedus holding his child.
And weeping.
I saw Norman Reedus' C-section scars, and in that moment I was born anew.
Anyways, we just finished watching Sony's E3 2016 press conference.
That's what we're talking about here today.
We'll get back to Norman in a minute, but they opened with God of War, just called God of War. That is a trend that's not going away. Just calling games.
Bold look.
Yeah. Prey, God of War.
Looks completely different. I didn't know what it was going to take for me to get excited about God of War again.
Yeah.
And apparently it's to completely change God of War completely because it didn't look anything like it. It was not like this combo-centric,
this behind-the-back third-person situation. Very different.
It looked to be based more in like Norse mythology. It looked like it was fighting like a frost giant, although I think it's probably a little bit too early to like dive too deep into the background of it.
I do have a pet theory, which is that dude looked exactly like Kratos but with a big old beard.
Yeah.
That's a trend also, by the way.
Big
is
old
that
beards.
between
just slap one on him.
Gears of War and God of War, we are seeing a lot of
Dads of War.
Yeah. But yeah,
War daddies.
War daddies is the big trend of this E3. I feel like
grappling hooks and war daddies.
Grappling hooks. You know what? We're gonna put a poll on the YouTube version of this video right here.
There's a graphic right here. Grappling hooks, war daddies, slime babies.
Yeah. Click the little card and vote on what you think is the #1 trend of E3: war daddies or grappling hooks. But
we got a new IP announcement from Sony Bin, which is the studio behind Siphon Filter. Haven't heard much from them lately. They're working on a game called Days Gone, which we got a brief teaser trailer for, and then at the end of the presentation, they did a longer gameplay demo of it. I don't really know how to feel about it yet. It looked like a kind of.
We're all thinking Last of Us, right? It crossed all of our minds, at least for a second.
Kind of. I think the big thing, it's a zombie action game. I think the big thing they were pushing was the like physics of the zombies. There were lots of zombies on screen all moving, and it kind of had that World War Z effect of just like an ocean of zombies all coming after you. It didn't seem like my cup of tea, really. I mean, there was stuff like every bullet that hit a zombie, the zombie would just immediately fall down.
Which is like rules,
the trade-off, I guess, for having a million zombies.
If you're going to have a million zombies, then they need to fall down immediately. I don't know. I think the tech was impressive for sure. Just seeing that there was like a jillion dudes running at you, but in terms of combat, it seemed like run away from them, shoot them a little bit, they fall down, shoot a red barrel, run away, shoot a red barrel, run away. It remains to be seen what that exactly is.
Yeah, there's a new trailer for The Last Guardian, which looks very good, and we got a release date for that, which was the 25th of October is when that game comes out. So that's exciting that game's coming out, that it exists.
Yeah, it's real.
That we're going to be able to touch it. I think we're going to get to play it actually at E3, which is
nice.
Very cool. There was a long gameplay demo of Horizon Zero Dawn, which I think looks fantastic.
I think it looks really cool. So we saw a little bit of taking over animals to kind of control them and ride them around.
Yeah, the protagonist, she hacked an elk.
She did. She jacked herself into the elk matrix.
Just jacked right into the elk matrix and like knew what elks liked in that moment, like carrots, salt licks.
It was really cool. They were able to visually communicate what you're describing. No, it looks cool. I think that fight at the end with the giant sort of ancient robot was kind of rad because it would like seemed like you had to react really quickly. Threw like a giant rock at her. It missed her and destroyed a house. Obviously,
and you have to pin it down, like
traps,
style,
right?
Just like lock it down in order to finish it. It looks pretty.
Looks really neat. Obviously, like pretty scripted E3 demo, obviously, but like I think that was one of the three most exciting things I saw besides Norman
and the fact
Reedus'
that there's
nude
three
body.
of them, Then we moved on to Detroit Become Human, which is David Cage's new jam.
Looks like a real David Cage game.
It looks like David Cage-ass game, man. It looks like David Cage in pill form. But basically what we saw was sort of the bleak Android setting that we saw in the trailer last year. Now we have a detective he was a hostage negotiator or some sort of negotiator named Connor who tries to defuse the situation, and then there's a branching narrative mechanic to it. It looked like I don't know exactly what it was.
Yeah, I came away from it feeling the same way I did about the last trailer for this game, which is there's some really cool explorations of like the human cyborg robot line, like when that woman's like, why aren't you sending a real human to save my baby, you're sending a robot. But then there's also like really corny stuff, like when that robot's like, I'm gonna shoot you and kill you, and he's like, you can't kill me, I'm a robot. I'm like, okay, a little on the nose.
That was the exact line, is you can't shoot me, I'm a robot.
You can't kill me, I can't be deaded, because I'm a machine man.
Yes, that's word for word. Did you write that game?
I worked on it, I contributed.
That seems like kind of a breach of ethics a little bit.
I'll hold back.
The next game that we saw was Resident Evil 7, which had a really neat demo. I think like the big takeaway there is it actually looks kind of scary and not like a bonkers action game where you're like shooting a helicopter that is also a zombie.
For sure, it felt very much like a "We Heard You" reaction to Resident Evil 6. That whole trailer was like this really weird extended first-person thing. It almost felt like it was intentionally evoking PT a little bit. And then the tagline on that was that the whole game can be played through start to finish in VR. So no idea what that means exactly, whether there's a first-person component or if you're just playing through in third person while wearing a Morpheus, or I guess a PlayStation VR.
I'm still going to call it Morpheus. There's nothing they can do. That ship has sailed. But in terms of PlayStation VR, they hit it really, really hard. Starting with a Resident Evil 7, they showed off a Batman PlayStation VR game that's going to be PlayStation VR exclusive, an X-Wing mission game from DICE and the Battlefield team.
Right, that's that Star Wars Battlefront thing that we didn't really know what that was. They announced it previously. It was kind of cool to see them flesh out, because we'd seen that number before, that like 50 games at launch for PlayStation VR, but I feel like as of tonight, we have a better idea what some of those games are.
There was a new IP for PlayStation VR called Farpoint, which I feel like I don't know a lot about. It was, you're marooned on a planet, it looks like, and you got a gun and you can shoot the robots.
I think at the end, one of the voices used the name Dr. Moon.
Which is a fun name for a space game.
That's a cool name for a space doctor,
There's a lot of, and Final Fantasy 15 apparently is going to have a PlayStation VR component, which looked really weird.
That shot in the trailer where he spins around and he's wearing the PSVR headset, I was like, sign me up.
So there's a lot of stuff coming for PlayStation VR. They kind of sold it as this is not a thing we're going to abandon, like the Vita, which wasn't present at the press conference at all. Nobody even mentioned it in passing at all.
They actually took them from you. If you had one in your pocket at the door, they'd pat you down.
They took them out the door. You said, you can't come in with that. Somebody might see that. It might end up on camera. Get the hell out of here. That's mixed messaging. Let's talk about Crash Bandicoot.
Sure.
He's back.
Sort of.
Better than ever.
Well, he's back and the same as ever, and also they're putting in a Skylanders game where he looks like a plush version of Crash Bandicoot.
A weird human Crash Bandicoot hybrid.
I like that you said Bandicoot. I do enjoy that.
You can use that on the box, Sony. That one's for free. And there's also going to be a remastered edition of Crash Bandicoot 1, 2, and 3 for PlayStation
that's right.
4.
1, 2, Wrath of Cortex, right? They're redoing all those.
We got our first look at, well, not our first look, but a long look at Call of Duty Infinite Warfare.
Yeah, that was my first time seeing gameplay.
Which was, what was telling is while they were showing this demo, they didn't say this is Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. And we were all sitting around being like, what is this hot-ass space fighting game?
Right.
Because I think that was the most surprising thing for me is like the shooting parts of it look very modern Call of Duty. Of like, here's a grenade that makes people float in the air. It's a future grenade. But the space combat stuff actually looked hot as hell, which I was not expecting.
Once again, grappling hooks. Major component. It seemed like you could kind of hit L1 to grapple an enemy and almost instantly kill them, so I'm going to be interested to see how they balance that. But some really nar executions of just like grabbing a dude, ripping his mask off, you suffocated, grab a dude, smash his mask, grab a dude, pull his grenade, and throw him into space.
Just so much dude grabs.
A lot of dude grabs.
Insomniac is working on a PlayStation 4 exclusive SpiderMan game,
that's
which
wild.
is completely bonkers. Like,
I mean,
I was not expecting that franchise to go exclusive to a single platform.
Yeah,
but it's a really good fit.
I think Insomniac, like, say what you will about Sunset Overdrive, and there's a lot to say about it, good and bad. I think moving around to that world felt dope.
Fantastic.
And like, I feel like if anyone can nail the way a Spider-Man game moves, which no one has done in like a decade, I think they'd be the ones to do it.
Part of me was hoping maybe Sucker Punch would have a hand on it. I'm curious as to what they're up to, and I think a Spider-Man game would work really well there, but I think Insomniac's going to crush it.
Yeah.
And then this brings us to, of course, Norman Reedus's beautiful oily baby.
Norman Reedus Nudie Simulator.
He had a baby, and
Norman Reedus had a baby.
The baby turned invisible and was made of oil, and this was Hideo Kojima's new game. It's called Death Stranding. That's my first time actually saying it out loud. I'm not sure like what the cadence is.
Cool, kind of tumbles out of the mouth.
We know nothing about this game, save for this trailer, which is the most bonkers thing I've ever seen.
So good. And if you were worried that Hideo Kojima was going to have to like dial it in and sort of like pull back a bit, no.
Because Norman Reedus had a baby and he stands up and you see his C-section scars and there's a million dead whales standing around.
That's maybe in real life the weirdest video game trailer I've ever seen in my life. But I came away like so psyched about it. That final shot with like the 5 floating bodies super far away in the sky with all the dead whales, like you meant like really evocative, super fucking weird. I'm 100% on board for whatever Kojima wants to do next.
In summary,
yeah,
this was I think Sony's been crushing it. I feel like with the press conferences,
right?
Especially the E3 press conferences. We didn't get a lot of release dates for these games, right? We don't know when these things are going to manifest or they're going to materialize, and we'll be able to play them. And going on like past E3s, like we don't know any more about Shenmue 3. We don't know that much more about Final Fantasy 7 than we did last year.
There are a few, like Last Guardian, we have a date and stuff, but for the most part,
there's been some development. What I'm saying though is like, even if that stuff isn't immediately about to manifest and be real, like that press conference was hot as hell.
All I could think about during it was, this is the exact opposite of EA's press conference. Like, they
Yeah.
spaced it out. It felt like they knew that they, like, all right, Crash, et cetera, et cetera. Like, they knew what they were going to have ready
There
this
were
year.
no
probably
long
a year and a
chunks
half
about
ago.
like entertainment initiatives. Like here's we're working on a bunch of movies and TV shows that aren't going to be especially good. There were a lot of games, and whether or not they're all immediately about to come out, like I don't think the press conference is like indicative of how the games are going to turn out. It's just its own standalone thing. And as a standalone like press conference, it was
really strong.
pretty damn good.
Probably the strongest one of E3. I
Yeah,
think.
definitely. That's it for Sony's E3 2016 press conference. There's still Nintendo's Treehouse stream to come, and of course, E3 itself, which hasn't actually started yet.
We got a lot of hands-on coming up.
Yeah.
So feel free to join the conversation on Twitter.com. It's hashtag Polyboys, I think, with a Z.
No, that's nothing.
So we'll see you guys over there on that hashtag.
Or you could just go to polygon.com, which is our website, or youtube.com/polygon. No, definitely go to those. Please go to those websites and just click on everything you see.
Just every button.
Just go
tab,
all the
enter,
while.
tab, enter. Press every button on both sites. We'll see you guys later this week.
Norman Reedus had a baby.